Bob Iger just told Walt Disney Company investors that they are investing $1.5 billion in Epic Games. And now Epic Games is going to war with Bob Iger's best friend, Tim Cook, over at Apple. Let's talk about that on That Marketplace. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and today we have breaking news. Culture, did you hear the break-in?
Yeah, yes, it's the breaking. I heard
Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo, Epic Games newsroom. Apple has terminated Epic's developer account, and now, quote-unquote, we cannot develop the Epic Games Store for iOS. This is a serious violation of the European Union's Digital Markets Act. We will continue to fight to get back on iOS. Culture, for those who somehow happen to wander into this video and don't know who Epic Games are, who are Epic Games?
Well, I'll answer that in one game. Fortnite.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the biggest games in the world and one of the largest MMOs in the world. That's massive multiplayer online games in the world. It is a game that I think it's 1 in 3 English speakers has a Fortnite account. It's huge. And Epic has been fighting with Apple for years. And we'll get into a little bit of the history here. But let's talk about this recent announcement Epic announced. We recently announced that Apple approved our Epic Games Sweden AB developer account. We intended to use that account to bring the Epic Games Store and Fortnite to iOS devices in Europe, thanks to the Digital Markets Act. To our surprise, Apple has terminated that account, and now we cannot develop the Epic Games Store for iOS. This is a serious violation of the DMA and shows Apple has no intention of allowing true competition on iOS devices. This is propaganda. It's not incorrect, but it is propaganda because they are very much trying to make the persuasive argument that Epic Games should be allowed to put their own app store on iOS devices. And it appears that the law would be on their side here. Culture, is that a misread of the situation?
Not at all. In fact, I would say Apple's kind of now in breach of the law, especially in Europe, and they've really screwed this up a few times. So this is fascinating to me that this is happening right at this moment.
Yep. And to quote the law, the gatekeeper shall allow and technically enable the installation and effective use of third-party software applications or software application stores using or interoperating with its operating system, and allow these software applications or software application stores to be accessed by means other than the relevant core platform services of that gatekeeper. In human words, they're saying they want their own app store and they don't want people to have to go through the Apple App Store in order to get it. And the law says that that's okay, according to their interpretation of the law. Of course, it's up for grabs in a court because this will be going to court. I can't see Apple letting this go without a fight, but it seems Apple's in the wrong here. So back to the item at hand. In terminating Epic's developer account, Apple is taking out one of the largest potential competitors to the Apple App Store. They are undermining our ability to be a viable competitor, and they are showing other developers what happens when you try to compete with Apple or are critical of their unfair practices. If Apple maintains its power to kick a third-party marketplace off iOS at its sole discretion, no reasonable developer would be willing to utilize a third-party app store because they would be permanently separated from their audience at any time. Let's just talk about here the ways that Apple and Epic have interacted in the past. Going back to the early years of the App Store, Epic released Epic Citadel on the App Store in 2010, followed by the award-winning Infinity Blade series of games. Infinity Blade was actually advertised at several Apple events. They brought it in to show that iPhones could be a gaming powerhouse. Epic and its subsidiaries have a number of apps that are live on the App Store, including Rocket League Sideswipe, Post Party, Reality Scanned, Live Link Face, Live Link Cam, Live Link VCam, Unreal Stage, Unreal Remote 2, Unreal Remote Action RPG Game Sample. We have contracts with Apple for Horizons 2 and Wonderbox, 2 Apple arcade games built with Unreal Engine by the team at Epic Games Brazil, formerly Acquirus. Apple markets App Store apps and arcade games that were built using Epic's Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is used for
It's amazing.
an amazing number of games.
Uh,
And also, what else is Unreal Engine using that Disney is currently making?
oh, it powers the volume. So things like The Mandalorian and stuff, you kind of needs Unreal Engine 5.
Yes, and
Yeah.
we are shipping experimental support for Apple Vision Pro in Unreal Engine 5.4. That's very important because Disney, by the way, is very involved in putting apps on the Apple Vision Pro. Again, Disney is one of those companies that keeps coming back to do presentations for Apple, along with Epic. And of course, Disney announced their $1.5 billion stake that they're getting into Epic Games in order to put a Epic Games universe, sorry, a Disney Epic Games universe right next to Fortnite. So Disney Fortnite, if we want to use the Lego Fortnite nomenclature here. So right now we have a very complicated relationship here. Bob Iger was just bragging on the at the Morgan Stanley Technology Conference that Apple and Disney have a long-standing relationship here, and they were the first ones to push to put television seasons on Apple devices. I think that was actually Steve Jobs that initiated that, but sure, Bob Iger can take credit for it. Or the fact that Bob Iger says that he was best friends with Steve Jobs and is now very close with Tim Cook here. But now it seems that Epic Games, which Tim Sweeney is running Epic Games, and we'll have a little bit of the correspondence here between Apple and between Apple and Epic in just a moment. It seems that Tim Sweeney, who is another Bob Iger wunderkind, is again going to war with Apple. Culture, is there any way you can give a Cliff Notes version of the last time that Epic went to war with Apple?
Well, they ended up in court, and it was one of those times when you suspected that this was going to move everything forward legally towards antitrust, and that's kind of the case that they were trying to make at the time. And while they were successful at that antitrust effort with the walled garden that is the App Store for both Android and for Apple, they were successful with Android. They were not successful with Apple. But ultimately, because of the revenue they were losing and because of some conversations that happened in the courtroom, we ended up with Epic being able to put Fortnite back on the App Store. It also kind of, they were gently pushed in the direction, I should say, Apple was gently pushed in the direction towards allowing for third party app store development that would allow them to sell their wares essentially directly without the 30% skim that Apple takes. We'll see how that works out. This is going to be, I guess, round two. Is that, would
Well,
you describe it any different?
yes, I would describe it as
Oh,
round two. And just to be clear, if you look at the App Store, the Apple App Store right now, Fortnite's not on there. It's on the Google Play Store, right? Or
mm,
whatever the Google app marketplace is.
mm,
And Epic is positioned here to create their own app store that goes on multiple different operating systems here. So
right.
they're trying to grow, and as we've tracked here on this channel and on the WDW Pro channel, it looks like Epic is trying very hard to be a metaverse company here, and Disney would like to get into that metaverse action. Right about the time that Bob Iger made that announcement, all of a sudden, when you look at a list of quote unquote metaverse stocks, Disney pops up on that list, despite getting rid of their metaverse department. Here's an interesting email here. This one is from Phil Schiller of Apple. He's the one that, if you look back, he's the one who said it was courage to get rid of the 3.5 millimeter audio jack. On, if I'm remembering this correctly, I believe he was the one that said that it was courage to get rid of that jack. Here he is interacting directly with Tim Sweeney. He says, "Hi, Tim. I hope that you are well. As you are aware, Apple is deeply committed to the success of developers and to providing the best, most secure experience possible for users. One of the ways we ensure that the Apple ecosystem delivers on these commitments is by requiring all participants in the Apple Developer Program to abide by its terms, including the Apple Developer Program license agreement. We have launched a comprehensive plan." Uh, you know, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Epic Games Sweden AB recently enrolled in the developer program. According to Epic's website, this entity will operate the mobile Epic Games Store and Fortnite in Europe. We welcome all developers to the developer program so long as they follow the rules. Those rules, including the DPLA and the App Store review guidelines, are intended to protect the integrity of the ecosystem. So, moving on to the spice here. In the past, Epic has entered into agreements with Apple and then broken them. For example, you testified that Epic Games Inc. entered into the developer program with full understanding of its terms and then chose to intentionally breach the agreement with Apple. You also testified that Epic deliberately violated Apple's rules to make a point and for financial gain. More recently, you have described our DMA compliance plan as hot garbage, a horror show, and a devious new instance of malicious compliance. And you have complained about what you called junk fees and Apple taxes. Your colorful criticism of our DMA compliance plan, coupled with Epic's past practice of intentionally violating contractual provisions with which it disagrees, strongly suggests that Epic Sweden does not intend to follow the rules. Another intentional breach could threaten the integrity of the iOS platform, as well as the security and privacy of our users. You have stated that allowing enrollment of Epic Games Sweden in the developer program is a good faith move by Apple. We invite you to provide us with written assurance that you are also acting in good faith and that Epic Games Sweden will, despite your public actions and rhetoric, honor all of its commitments in plain, unqualified terms. Please tell us why we should trust Epic this time. Thanks, Phil. I love
Wow.
the ending there. But of
Thanks.
course, they're booted from this developer account now, and here we are.
Uh,
So now we have Phil Schiller, Tim Cook of Apple, and Tim Sweeney of Epic Games, and now Bob Iger is caught in the middle with this amazing investment here. It makes me wonder: will Disney have to develop apps for Epic, or will they have to develop it for iOS, or will Epic have to make specific iOS versions of all of their software in order to put it on iOS, but not have to follow the developer guidelines? This is a mess. Culture, is this not a mess?
It's a terrible mess, and it's one that we saw coming miles away,
Yeah.
going back to, I guess, 8/13 of 2020.
Right. Epic doing this is something that we expected, and I fully expect that they will not stop until the Epic Game Store is available on every single device on the planet, including the American iOS. The American iOS, and by the way, just so everyone knows, I am in support of the Epic Game Store, or at least Fortnite returning to the Epic Game Store, because I do a lot better when all those mobile users are unable to compete in a fair way.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they just boost my stats. So yes, please, more fodder for the grinder.
And that is a great way to look at it. Hey, bring on those mobile folks. That's awesome.
Maybe
Uh,
they'll even lower the price. They'll add more marketability
when
to
you
Fortnite here.
but the thing is the last thing in the world, and this is a battle, and we talked about this behind the scenes, but this is a battle that Tim Cook and his company, Apple, are going to lose ultimately
I
at
think
the
you're
end of
right.
the day.
I
I
think you're
mean,
right.
they're gonna lose first in Europe, and then here in the States, the DOJ and the powers that be will recognize that if this doesn't happen, it's gonna get broken up because and the last thing Apple wants to have happen is to have it broken up. But they also love to take 30% of everything or whatever it is as far as the fees go from, everything that they sell. That
Yep.
sounds really familiar to me.
It certainly does. And we don't see a lot of people chucking their iPhones into the Boston Harbor here to protest their Apple tax. But anyways, the thing that I want to bring this back to is Bob Iger. He bumped the stock price in part by announcing this Fortnite Epic Games partnership acquisition. And now at
Right.
the Morgan Stanley conference, he said that, well, Epic is going to pay to build this Disney Fortnite, or whatever it's going to end up being called here, so that they can now put Mickey Mouse in the same larger ecosystem. I don't think they'll have Mickey Mouse holding an AK or a Reaper AR or anything like that. But I see this as an awkward spot for Bob that he will inevitably be able to get past. But in the meantime, I wonder if maybe Nelson Peltz tomorrow at his town hall will have to address questions of how to smooth things over here if he ends up on the board of the Walt Disney Company. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I just find it funny that no matter what direction Bob turns, he is between a rock and a hard place, and most likely he put both of them in place.
Yep, I think that you're correct, and I think he's looking forward to Epic being more. I had originally thought he was going to smooth things over between Apple and Epic. I was actually thinking, hey, this is a good thing for all parties. But now things are getting hotter. He's engaged in a blood feud now. He's gotten the Disney company involved in a blood feud, and I think that's hilarious. Of course, for those of you who have watched to this point, like this video if you thought it was helpful or more informative. And consider leaving us a comment with your thoughts. We would love to hear from you. And, if you think we deserve it, maybe think about subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media account.